On the 22nd of May, the day of St. Nicholas of Myrae, do not do these three things, lest you become impoverished and fall ill. The whole year sounds like a frightening admonition from an old vile-leg notebook, doesn't it? But what's peculiar is that year of the year, some disbelieve, some chuckle, while others converse lie. Recall how once, disregarding a folk prohibition, their life seemed to dim from that day forward. Money began to slip through their fingers. Health appeared to evaporate, and it felt as if something was peered behind their back. You didn't listen. People who lived in accordance with these rules noticed the year passed more ease I lie, quiet lie, and fruitful lie. But a special power is indeed concealed within this day. Among all the days when one should heed the ancestors, the 22nd of May holds a unique place. It's not merely a church holy day, not just a folk celebration. It's one of those rare days when a person can, by their own actions, either close off their path to good fortune or, conversely, open it wide, simply by observing what was long known to our grandmothers. Not for nothing on this day in Ruse, did even grown men remain more silent than us you all, refrain from going into the fields and guard their pockets, while women covered their palms so that not a single coin would leave the house. Why is it that on this particular day misfortune can firmly settle in one's life if a line is crossed? There are days when the unseen becomes manifest, when benevolent forces respond to a wise pair of gratitude, and malevolent ones lie in wait, antic-eye-patting a mistake. St. Nicholas of Myra doesn't bear his name for no real son. He can indeed miraculous lie open a new path for a person, but on lie for one who conducts themselves proper lie, careful lie, and with respect. For others, alas, it's not worth testing his patience. The price for carelessness is too high. Folk wisdom said, as you meet Nicholas, so your year will proceed, which means it's better to meet him in purity, with gratitude, caution, and wisdom. And most importantly, not to do that which could permanently block the flows of abundance and robust health. For not everything that seems trivial truly is. Sometimes a simple word, gesture, or action can turn one's entire destiny. And if you know what not to do specifically on this day, you can avoid a great many troubles. Therefore, listen to the voice of the ancestors. They didn't leave us this knowledge in vain, not out of fear, not superstition, but from experience, pain, and care. And may today's story become for you not just interesting, but truly useful, for it can change the course of events in your life. If you feel there is something important in this, give this video a like. This simple action can be the first step towards letting the energy of good and luck flow to you. Share this video with friends. Give them a chance to avoid misfortunes. And be sure to write in the comments the magical words. St. Nicholas of Myra, open the path to good for me and protect me from evil. Let them become your. Over the years, much changes in people. Habits depart, traditions disintegrate, and most importantly, the living connection to what held the world in balance for centuries erodes. But there are dates against which time is powerless. The 22nd of May is precisely such a day. It is impossible to erase, impossible to rename, impossible to forget, because something more than just a date on the calendar is concealed within it. It is a day when silence becomes louder than words, and the slightest careless movement can echo through every month that follows. It's no coincidence that St. Nicholas of Myra is a specialisen, cited to please actions on this day. It's no coincidence that the old folks said that on this day, even the wind listens to your thoughts and knows where you step. There is something about this spring day that reveals a person's soul like a book, and everything written in it on this day, through quarrels, anger, greed, or good deeds, remains on its pages until winter itself. That is why the 22nd of May was treated with special reverence, almost like a secret trial that everyone, without exception, undergoes. It is from this day, according to ancient beliefs, that the virai path opens along which a person can proceed, either to their pros per iti and peace, or to loss airs, ailments, and an anxiety that doesn't release its grip, even at night. It is believed that at dawn on the 22nd of May, unseen forces gather at every home, observing whether a person sleeps with a pure heart, whether they have carried resentment, envy, or mal-ice with them from the previous day. And if they have, can they atone for it today with a warm word, a modest gesture, or, most importantly, by not marking the mistakes known vain to our grandmothers. The first thing strictly forbidden on this day was to give an eye thing away from the home. This wasn't just about monai. One couldn't give away salt, water, bread, needles, thread, or even a simple cup. Because with evieri, it em from the home, not just the thing departed, but luck departed too. Folk meme or I preserved those eens of store eyes of how a person, out of kindness, gave away some things small and then spent the year trying to reclaim what was lost. Giving to strong gears meant losing one's own. It didn't return, didn't prosper, didn't mend. It was esper kaili dangir aus to give away monai, even a small kopek. On this day, it was believed that money, as if alive, listens to who holds it, where it goes, and what the person feels. If given away on this day, even with the best intentions, one could inadvertently give away their own channel for money, as if severing a fine golden thread that stretched towards abundance. And to restore it was a major undertaking and not always possible. And here begins the most interesting part. Old folks used to say, give away a coin on the 22nd of May and you give away bread for the entire year. This wasn't just a figurative expression. There were marnai cases where a person, without realizing it, shared out of the best intentions on this day, and afterwards unexplicable holes appeared in their bud. Get salary delays, senseless spending, disappearing savings, and constant need. And each time it seemed no thing special had happened. On Lila Ter, when reviewing days and events, did everything converge on one point. The 22nd of May, the moment when a hand reached out to give what should have remained at home. Even in the poor Estville lagers, they knew. On this day, one does not give and does not take, does not borrow and does not ask. Not from a neighbor, not a relative, not a friend. Because the law that Op Air 8 on the day of St. Nicholas of Myra forgives no exceptions. It doesn't matter who is before you. If you extend a coin, salt, or water, it's as if you yourself are blocking the flow of good. And to regain it is far more difficult than to lose it. For misfortune does not arrive loud lie. It comes in the form of triflues. A broken tap, torn clothes, a lost receipt, fatigue, savings that melt like water in one's palms. In one family that lived on the outskirts of a village, there was a story retold for decades. A woman, on the morning of the 22nd of May, gave a neighbor a small bag of salt. The neighbor had come just before breakfast asking for a pinch. It was awkward to refuse. Her heart twinged and her hands trembled, but she couldn't say no. She gave it. A week later, her husband fell ill. Then her son's affairs went downhill. A month later, the last valuables were stolen from their home. It seemed like just salt, but salt wasn't the main thing. It was the day on which the prohibition was violated. The most inside Ayu's thing about this day is that it can appear ordinary, sunny, welcoming, joyful, and therefore it is so easy to misstep, to open one's wallet, to give away change for a fare, to treat a neighbor, and then not understand where the unease that prevents peace, full living came from. That is why on this day, people kept their wallets close to themselves, did not exchange large bills, did not take change anikis sarai lai, and did not give change if they could refuse, all for the sake of preserving that del, ikite connection with prosperity, which is given as a gift. But if everything is clear with Monet, what to do if a person has already found themselves in a situation where help is needed and their heart suggests that refuse al might offend? Is there truly no way out? The heart doesn't always listen to Ria Sun, and there are moments when everything inside clenches with the desire to help. Especially lie if the person before you is close, an acquaintance, or simply someone in need. How then to act correctly, without violating the power of this day and without attracting misfortune to the home? And if one absolutely had to give something, for example, a person was in trouble and conscience wouldn't allow one to pass by, then they resorted to a special subtle tie. They would give it with farewell words, a short whisper addressed not to the person, but to higher powers, such as, I give not my own, but for a trial. May my good not depart with this. Or they would place the item not in the person's hands, but on an intermediate surface, a tableau, a bench, a window sill. In this way, according to ancient beliefs, the connection between the homes in Ergai and the transferred item was broken. It was thought that in such a case, luck does not leave with the item. Money kept a small bag of salt or grain with them on this day as a charm. It lay in the left pocket and was not used for household needs or food. It was a symbol that riches were present and safe in the home. If someone tried to ask for something, they wouldn't refuse rude lie, but would show the bag and say, while I have this, I cannot share an thing else. It was believed these words protected from poverty bet, than any prayer. But there were also those who, having violated this rule, tried to rectify the consequences. There is one method that was considered a last chance. A speakel recon Kyle with the energy of the day. It was performed at night immediately of the sunset. One thing was done, but not everyone dared to do it. What was it? When the sun inclines towards the hoary zone and the day of St. Nicholas of Myra draws to a close, the silence becomes particular lyres o nant. Folk wisdom said that it is at this hour one can try to mend what was carelessly torn. If a person felt they had given away something unnecessary, shared unwisely, or yielded to persuasion, they could perform an ancient rite of repentance to prevent poverty from entering their home. For this, they would gather a little water in a clean bowl, place it on the window sill so that the stars reflected in it, and whisper words of gratitude to Nicho Lazaverit. Not a prayer, not a request, but sincere gratitude for everything that was, for everything that will be. It was believed that water absorbs the words, and the stars become witness sees. Then with this water, they would wash their hands, palms, fingers, between the fingers, as if returning their own strength to themselves. The remaining water was poured out at the threshold with the words, what is gone, may it not take mine. I close, I protect. This was a subtle way not to let an act destroy the entire year. But few knew this. It worked only if the person realized they had broken the prohibition, not from indifference, but from ignorance or weakness. And only sincerity gave a chance to restore balance. That is why, in ancient times, young children were taught, don't touch, don't take, don't give an thing on this day, even if you really want to, even if you don't understand why. Because St. Nicholas of Myra sees not only the act, but also the intention. And now, the next prohibition. It was far more subtle, but no less danger aus, and it was violated most of 10 by women in the height of Springshustele, when the earth beckons to the garden beds and hands itch to plant, dig, transplant. It was precisely on the day of St. Nicholas of Myra that disturbing the soil was strict life forbidden. Why? It would seem, what's wrong with caring for the land? But here, things are not so simple. What does the earth conceal within itself, specific only on the 22nd of May, and why can any touch to it result in crop failure or heavy loss? The earth is not just soil, not just a place where vegetables or flowers grow. In ancient understanding, it is a living entity, a mother providier who feels, breathes, remembers. And precisely on the 22nd of May, it, as it were, falls asleep for one day to gather strength before summer. To disturb its peace at this meant is tantamount to waking a tired woman in the middle of the night. The consequences are not immediate, not loud, but they come you late and enter the home unexpectedly. Through drought, through leg illnesses, through family quarrels, or a strange feeling of anxiety that nests somewhere beneath the heart. Old folks noticed that if someone worked with the earth precisely on this day, problems soon began for them, not necessarily lie with the harvest. Sometimes equipment would break, tools would fail, fin gears would get broken, joint pain would appear. Women who found themselves in the garden beds on the 22nd of May later complained of a fatigue they couldn't explain, as if their strength was draining not into work, but simply evaporating, leaving only heaviness behind. In some villages, there was a strict prohibition. One couldn't even poke the ground with a stick, let alone with a spade or hoe. And if someone violated it, people wouldn't greet them until Trinity Sunday, because it was believed they could bring misfortune not only to themselves, but to their entire household. The earth remembers everything. It accepts not only seeds, but also emotions, actions, mistakes. And if disrespect is invested in it, it returns it fold. That is why on the 22nd of May, women did not go into the vegetable garden. They tidied the house, cooked special dishes, read words of gratitude to Nicholas, but did not touch the garden beds, even if it had rained before, even if deadlines were pressing. The earth on this day belonged only to itself. It was its day of rest. In this there was profound respect, for only such land which was not tormented on niche o last day, in return yielded fruits saturated with strength and health. But the trouble is that many have lost this knoll edge, moved to cities, forgot traditions, stopped hearing the old warnings. And it is precisely such forgotten mistakes that later become the beginning of a dark streak. But there is a story that can explain much, a story about a woman who did everything right, but stumbled once, and how it affected her entire family. What happened on her plot of land? She lived at the very edge of the village. Her house was small but always well kept, with color fuel curtains, a quiet courtyard, and neat garden beds along the fence. Her name was Pila Gaya, and everyone in the district respected her for her kindness, honesty, and diligence. She was a widow, living with her daughter and grandson, never complaining about fate or health. She always adhered to traditions, especially on such special days as the 22nd of May. That year, spring was prolonged with late rains. The earth didn't dry out for a long time, and many people's planting was delayed. When the weather improved, people started bustling. Some hurried to plant potatoes, others took out seedlings. But Pila Gaya tracked everything by the days. She knew that on the 22nd of May, the earth should not be touched. This was her unwritten law inherited from her mother. From the evening of the 21st of May, she prepared of everything. A hoe, a bucket, seeds, but she told herself firmly, I will not go into the field until the morning of the next day. In the morning, as soon as it dawned, a neighbor knocked on her gate, crying, asking for help. Her husband had got 10 drunk and smashed the greenhouse. She couldn't manage alone, afraid the seedlings would dry out. Pelageya stood in thought for a long time. Her heart told her to help, but her hands seemed to know. No. Nevertheless, she relented, saying she would only do the very first row so as not to ruin the crop. And just as she went out into the field, just as she stuck her hoe into the ground, a wind blew up, cold, sharp, as if someone had passed nearby. Pelageya shivered but said no thing. By evening, she felt pain in her legs. By night, her lower back ached. 3 days later, she could no longer bend down. The doctor shrugged. Nothing serious, just age. But Pelageya knew. It wasn't age. It was payment for that one time. And from that day, everything seemed to start crumbling. Her daughter was fired from her job, her grandson started having problems at school, and Pelageya herself lost her peace. She would later say, it wasn't the right hoe in my hand, not the right day. This might seem like a fabrication, but in the Ville Lage after that incident, Piopel came to her for advice. She learned from her own experience and told everyone one thing. St. Nicholas of Myra's day is a day of silence for the earth. It listens. Don't touch it if you want it to listen to you in return. But there was another prohibition about which Pilage ye spoke with particular emphasis. It concerned neither the earth nor monai nor possess science. It concerned the viri heart. The prohibition Pilage ye always spoke of almost in a whisper concerned emotions. And not just an emotions, but that very internal flare-up that is born suddenly when the heart boils, lips tighten, and the voice becomes as prickly as wire. It was about an air, quarrels, and male ice that can erupt from no thing. An unfortunate word, a trivial offence, an argument that would be forgotten on an ordinary day, but on the day of St. Nicholas of Myra can leave a scar for the year ahead. In the Ville Lage, they always said, if you quarrel on the 22nd of May, you won't let peace into your home until the next spring. It would seem, so what if you got angry? So what if you raised your voice? But precisely on this day, every word carries weight. Every breath sounds louder than us UL. One word led to another, then shouting, then a broken plate. It's as if the words are etched into the air, remaining settling in corners. And the more of them there are, the harder it is to breathe. That's why they tried to control themselves on this day, even if everything inside was boiling, even if the soul was straining to break free. They kept silent, went into the garden, the bathhouse, to the riviere, drank warm water with Honai, pet Ted the cat, anything not to lose control. But what if one couldn't hold back? If it flared up, burst out, escaped like poison? For sometimes a word is already spoken, and the silence of there it is louder than a gunshot. Then an ancient rite came to the rescue, a way to tame what had erupted. But it was performed only in one case. If the person truly regretted it and wanted to cleanse not only the home, but also themselves. And this is how it looked. To remove the power of a harsh word spoken on Nicho last day, one had to act immediately, not postponing it until morning. A fire was lit in the home, most of 10 or dine rye candle placed in a white dish with a pinch of salt. The fire symbolized light that helps to dispel darkness, and the salt cleansed everything it touched. They would sit before this candle, alone, no phone, no conversations, no fuss, just you and the fire. They would look into the flame without blinking and say 3 times, what was said with pain, let it go with the smoke. What was broken by word, let it be mended with silence. After this, they would light a small piece of junai pur or birch bark and walk with it through the house. Especially lie in those places where the offensive words were spoken. The smoke would drive out the remnants of male ice from the corners, and all the while they would whisper, don't hold, don't remember, don't return. Home is not for shouting, but for warmth. Then they would append the wine dows, all of them, even cool we there, to release what had gone. The candle was not extinguished, but allowed to burn down to the end. This rite, it was believed, was the only way not to let the spoken words take root. And if a person did everything sincerely, with repentance and a desire to change everything, the anger would subside, not immediately, but gradually. The house would become quiet air, pupil soft air. If the cleansing was not performed, the quarrel would repeat, intensify, and at some point become habitual, as if it were the normal state. This is what they tried to guard against, not to allow the habit of quarreling, especially on such a day when everything said is written, as it were, first upon one's destiny. But there were also other signs by which they judged how the year would pass after the 22nd of May. If a person did everything correctly, violated no prohibitions, then the day itself seemed to give signs of approval. For example, if in the morning you noticed a bird at the window, it was considered a good omen, especially a swallow or a sparrow. If the sun peeked out of the noon, it meant Nicholas had heard and blessed. But there was one sign that sent shivers down the spine, and if it occurred, Piopli prepared for trouble. What was it? The most dreadful sign on Necho last day was if someone, early on the morning of the 22nd of May, found a broken branch on their threshold, esper cal lie if it was dry and cracked, as if charred. The wind hadn't brought it. No one could explain where it came from. But if it lay under the door, it was a warning, silent but potent. They said, St. Nicholas of Myra has turned away. If this happened, the person was warned that for the next year, they needed to live quiet air than water, low air than grass. Not to quarrel, not to litigate, not to start anything important, not to interfere in others' affairs. In one courtyard on the edge of a village, a man found such a branch. He was a hot-tempered person, believed in no omens, considered it all nonsense. An old wide-out neighbor saw him pick it up, break it further, and hurled it into the fire, even laughing. And then strange things began to happen to him, not catastrophes, but small persistent troubles. Deals fell through, tires went flat, documents were lost, family scandals, insomnia. And all this as if in a chain reaction. He couldn't understand what was wrong, until one day he went to that same widow, and she reminded him, you threw the branch into the fire, didn't you? Why in Guernicholas? There was a belief that if a broken branch appeared on the threshold, one had to act strictly according to the rules. Under no circumstances should it be touched with bare hands. One should put on gloves or use a cloth, carefully move it to the ground far from the house, and whisper as the tree let go of its own, so I let go of all bad. Funish! After this, one should not return by the path where it lay, and until sunset, not enter into arguments, not light a fire, not clean the house. On lie silence, calmness, and simple tasks that do not disturb the soul. Some left a small bowl of water and 3 coins near the house, saying that in this way, one could avert misfortune as if to buy off what was sent as a leçon. But this had to be done without fear, because St. Nicholas of Myra does not punish. He warns. Hearing the warning, a person receives a chance, a truly rare, precious chance to fix of airy thing, not bringing it to disaster. But if the day passed calm lie, if no one came with a claim, if no reason for anger arose, if peace reigned in the house, then they said, St. Nicholas of Myra passed by but glanced. This meant the year would be a ven, without sharp turns. For it to be also generaus, folk knew one special ritual, kind qui et, almost unnoticed able, but powerful. It was performed in the evening at sunset, and on lie once a year. What was this rite, and why was it considered a secret to good fortune for the 12 months ahead? The sun slowly rolls towards the horizon. The air grows cool, birds fall silent. It was in such stillness that a special ritual of gratitude to St. Nicholas of Myra was performed, the very one that, according to beliefs, opened the flow of money and protected from unnecessary losses. It was done once a year, precisely on the evening of the 22nd of May, on lie if the day had passed calmly, without quarrels, haste, or violation of prohibitions. A person would remain alone in a room or courtyard, fucking the sunset. Before them, on a table or bench, lay 3 things: a simple white tablecloth, a plate with grain, and an old coin, not a new one, but one that had been in the hands of more than one person. These item symbolize 3 parts of life: purity of thoughts, fruitfulness of endeavors, and experience accumulated through labor. In olden times, they said, purity to light, grain to abundance, coins to generosity. All that was needed was to sit calm, lie, looking at these, and whisper 3 times. As the sun sets but goodness remains, so let need depart from me, and abundance and peace arrive. After this, the tablecloth was carefully folded, togged there with the coin and a handful of grain, and hid then in a secluded place, a drawer, a chest, a casket. It was not unfolded or touched until the following year. It was considered like a covenant with heaven. Once made, keep it. If not a word was broken, if no thing was given away, no thing dug up, no thing shouted, then the secret bag became a magnet for luck. But if even one of the three was violated, the power vanished, and the tablecloth brought no thing. This rite was not advertised. It was not even told to grandchildren. It was passed by word of mouth, from mo there to daughter, from grandfather to grandson, but only when they felt the person was special enough to preserve it. For there was no magic in it, in the usual sense, only a profound respect for the order of the world. And it was this respect, this silence, this mindfulness that made the rite true like powerful. But there were also other small actions that on this day amplified the energy of the home, inconspicuous but important. For example, a special handling of water, or one item that absolutely had to be held in the hands in the evening. The slightest of air sight could weaken protection, while the correct action could give the feeling that the house was filled with a warm light from within. What was this item, and why was it treated almost like a relic? This item was a simpler wooden spoon. But precisely on Nicho last day, on the evening of the 22nd of May, this spoon became a symbol of abundance, bread and warmth in the home. In olden times, it was even called the spoon of power. Every family member had to hold it in their hands for at least a minute. It was believed that through it, a person received a blessing for a well-fed life, for health, and for peace in the family. But not every spoon was suitable. Only one with a warm his to rye was chosen. Not a new festive one, but one that knew hands. It was placed on a white cloth. They waited until the sun went beyond the horizon, and then, one by one, with gratitude, took it in their palms, without words, simply with a good feeling. If someone refused or forgot, the house lost one of the threads through which prosperity flowed to it. They didn't get offended, didn't insist, but felt how important it was to do it consciously. After the spoon had passed through the hands of the family, it was wrapped in a cloth, placed in a cupboard or drawer, and not used until the following year. It was kept as a key et guardian. If trouble arose during the year, the mistress of the house would take it out, stroke it, and ask, "You have been in palms, protect as you can."